All right, my nerds, you're in the machine now. There's no turning back. By popular demand, more on hamstrings. Most of the yoga nerds I know have really flexible hamstrings, but a lot of the people I know who are just getting into it or who do a lot of other sports activities tend to say that they're super tight. It's hard for them to stretch. This is a seated routine, not a flow, to get all three parts of the hamstrings. Let's do it. All right, before we get started, a quick anatomy lesson. Hamstrings, plural, is actually three muscles. I'm going to show you this nerdy little model that I created. Had to go to the dollar store for this, you're welcome. It's three bands of muscles that insert basically behind the knee and originate kind of at the sits bone under the glute, the butt muscle. So depending on the angle of the hip, front to back, side to side, or rotated in any direction, there's going to be more or less tension on one or more of those bands of muscles. So part of this stretching routine is going to be playing with the angle of the hips and the rotation of the thigh bone. First, we want to get some blood into those hammies. We're going to do that just by doing some curls, but we're going to do them with different rotation of the femur bone to make sure we get the outside, the middle, and the inside of that hamstrings groups. Really simple. Sit down, back straight, drop your heels onto the mat or the carpet or wherever you are, peel your toes back and engage those hamstrings just a little bit. Lean back if you need to. Position is kind of like you're riding a little go-kart or something. And you're going to pull those hammies and drag your heels across the floor toward your butt. Engage the whole time. When I get to the end, I'm not relaxing them. I'm keeping them engaged and pulling again. My feet are hip width and I'm keeping them parallel right now to aim for the middle portion of these hamstrings. So I'm dragging back like I'm pulling my heels through the mud toward my butt. Keeping the hamstrings engaged and pulling again. They'll start to feel a little sore. If you're cramping, just take a break. One more time, inviting some blood to flow into the hams before we try to stretch them. That addresses something called tissue viscosity, which is just far too complex to explain right now, but feel free to look it up. And that does it for the middle. We're going to try the inside, and all you have to do for that is to kind of set one heel and then pigeon toe and do the same thing. Pull back at an angle. We're doing one at a time now. Set the heel, pull back at an angle. Set the heel, pull back at an angle. It should feel like more of the inside of the hamstring is working. Set that heel, knee in, pigeon toe, internally rotating the whole leg. Let's do it one more time. Drag that heel. Try it on the other side. Do whatever you want with the leg you're not working. Set that heel, pigeon toe, internally rotate, and drag. Keeping it engaged. Drag. It'll almost feel like your butt scooting forward. Set that heel, pigeon toe. A couple of more times. Set it, pigeon toe, and drag. It's actually kind of a hamstring workout. And we did the inside and the middle, so all that's left is the outside. And for that, we can actually do both at the same time. We're going to flop our feet out, kind of like a butterfly stretch. Squeeze them barely together, not all the way together, just a little bit together, and then drag the feet towards us. So set them out, keeping engaged the whole time. Drag the feet towards us. So now we're externally rotating those thigh bones. Drag the feet towards us, inviting some muscle in before we try to stretch. A couple of more times. Drag the feet towards us. Last one, and we'll start to stretch. And there we go. Shake it out a little if you need to. We're going to start on the outside and work our way in. This is a stretch I think I may have invented, so don't try to steal it. We're going to take the right foot out straight, the left foot over the top of it, and we're going to hook the top of that left foot on the outside, the pinky toe side of the right foot. So the left leg is bent, kind of resting like figure 4, and we're going to pull back with both feet, like we're peeling our toes towards us, but the left foot is sideways and the right foot is straight up and down. So there should be a little tension in that hamstring already. Now we're gonna pull this hip back and turn ourselves just a little bit, like a tiny spinal twist. The whole point is to pull this hip away and add some tension to the outside. So your left hip's going forward, right hip's going back. You'll feel a little pull on the outside, that piriformis area. That's cool. Now we're gonna lean forward. It should absolutely light up the outside of that hamstring. I'm pretty flexible in the hamstring. This is about as far as I can go without being really uncomfortable. If you're way up here with it, that's fine, but find a way to lean forward, because that tipping of the pelvis back is gonna add the tension. So if you can brace your elbow off the other leg to keep the slight twist, pulling that hip back as you lean forward, go for it. This is getting the outside. This is one a lot of people can't manage to find an angle to stretch, so they end up just stretching the middle and ignoring the other muscle structures. I like to hold this for 3 to 5 breaths. Back out, let it relax just a little bit. Set it up again, hip back, little twist, lean forward. If you're not feeling this on the outside, like really tight on the outside of that hamstring, back out and start over. Find the tension and then lean forward. Many times as you want. As long as you're not bouncing and doing crazy stuff, you can't overdo this. Let's try the other side. Left foot will go straight. Peel the toes back. Right leg rests over like you're sitting in a figure 4. Hook the top of that right foot on the outside, the pinky toe side of that left foot. Pull. Both feet pull back toward you. Left leg is straight. There should be some tension in the hamstring. This time I go the other way. Right hip forward, left hip back, pulling it back, feeling some real tension in that like piriformis area on the outside of the hip. A little bit of a spinal twist, only to get our hips to turn. We're not actually working the spine here. And then I lean forward. Ooh, it ain't easy. Remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. And 3 to 5 breaths, back it out. Make sure your tension is in place. This is a busy stretch. You're not just flopping over like you're in gym class. Little twist, left hip pulls back, lean forward. That forward lean is what's going to add to the tension. And again, if you're tight as can be and you're way up here, then you're only going to lean like an inch. If you're really flexible, maybe you'll be way down here. If you're somebody with open hammies, give this a try and tell me if you're going as low as usual. Probably not. Remember to breathe, do it as many times as you want. I got stuff to do, so I'm moving on to the other parts of the hamstring. From the outside, we're working into the middle. This one is super easy as long as you keep your toes straight up and down. If you roll them out or in, you're not gonna get that center piece of the hammy. So toes are straight up and down like you're pressing them against a wall in front of you. Actively pulling the feet back. You should almost feel like these muscles in the front, these shin bone muscles, are feeling like they're trying to cramp. I'm gonna pull my buns away, like I'm literally walking them away. Sit upright, totally upright, trying to keep my pelvis tucked back, like I'm pointing my tailbone away as if I'm trying to do a cow pose, like arching my back with this anterior tilt. And then I lean forward. You're not gonna go very far if you keep that back position. Most of us aren't anyway. When you round, you'll start to go farther, but we're gonna do that in a second. We're gonna work these individually by angling the hips again. So here I am upright, center is engaged, core is engaged, trying to tuck my tailbone away, not under me, away. Lean forward as far as I can go, and then I take turns shifting the hips front to back and making one leg longer than the other. So I go one side, and it starts to stretch the heck out of here because I'm releasing on this side, and then I do the other side, all the while trying to stay in this forward fold, and the other side. So as I'm looking forward, it's like one leg is longer than the other because I'm pulling one hip back. Feet are still hip width, still parallel, toes straight up and down. And what's kind of fun about this is you can like chugga, almost like you're skiing, and practice one or the other. You don't have to do this monkey business with your hands, but I just think it's cool. You could rest them on the ground, but sometimes almost kind of like you're marching. It helps to put one shoulder forward and one hip back. So this is an active movement through the stretch. One long leg, one short leg, hip back, hip forward, switch it, switch it, switch it. Switch it as many times as you want. You should feel this extreme tension that alleviates and then tightens up again on each side as you do this little hokey pokey here. To finish it off, we're going to straighten them, lean forward as far as we can, let it round, back out, and do it again. Far as we can, just like we're doing a standing forward fold in a sun salutation or something. When that locks out, let it round. We're moving the hips again. Back it out, straighten it up. Forward fold as far as you can. Let the back round. Couple of more times. Should feel even tension now because our hips are square to the front of the mat. We're not angling one forward and one back. When you can't go anymore, let it round. Back out. Did I say one more? We're doing one more. Forward fold, straighten the back, let it round, and then out. Working from the outside to the middle to the inside. This is pretty easy, but we're gonna widen our legs just a little bit, like maybe double hip width. If you get them really wide, that becomes an adductor stretch, and we're not doing that now. We'll do that later, I promise. So about double hip width. Turn the toes in, internally rotating the thighs while still pulling the toes back. And it's going to be the same thing. We're going to angle one way, drop down, back out, angle the other, drop down, back out, angle the other way, drop down, back out. So the hip goes forward, which drives that heel forward and pulls this heel back. Drop down, back out, a couple more. Remember to breathe, of course. Breathing is the only thing in this yoga that's not optional, because eventually you're going to have to breathe, or you ain't coming back to yoga. And we'll hit the middle again, so maybe a teeny bit wider. Turn those toes in. Grab them if you can, and pull. So this sensation should be the inside. Really hard to totally isolate these muscles because they do work as a group, but we can focus the tension in one spot or the other. Pulling, maybe you can't reach, who cares? Get a strap and pull, but make sure that your tailbone is angled away at like anterior tilt, like you're tucking it away from you, not under you, and then pull. If all you can get is like the back of your hammies, then pull. But the sensation should be more in the middle. This, I think, is the hardest one to get because our femur bone only internally rotates so far. We can rotate it out like a long way, but it only goes in so far. It like kinks up right at our groin area. So one more time, pigeon toes, forward fold, grab whatever you can and pull. And we're gonna finish it off with a really, really cool one that gets them all at once. In fact, if you're short on time, this is a great one to do. To hit it all in kind of one exercise. So, one foot in, one foot out. Doesn't matter what this foot's doing. It could be sloppy, it could be tucked in, it could even be behind you. We want to straighten this leg, and then we're going to turn the foot out, externally rotating the thigh, and then travel through the stretch as we turn it in. If you can get your toe, awesome. You're going to point your heel in and your toe out. You're going to pull really hard, kickstand if you need to, and then turn it. And the way I turn it, to really get the internal rotation, I actually bring this hip off the ground, the same side hip. So I reset, grab that toe, straighten the leg, feel the tension, pull for more, heel in, toe out. Internally rotate through the middle to the inside, and to really get that inside, I lift the hip and point that toe. If you're not reaching the toe, doesn't matter. You can spend $150 for a nice strap from Lululemon, or just get a shoestring or your own belt or whatever. Pull it as tight as you can. Out at the toes though. If you're down at the heel or you're setting it like a stirrup, you're not gonna be pulling back and creating a stretch in that calf. Heel in, toes out. Pull, rotate it internally. As you feel like you're starting to max out on the inside, lean over and lift that hip like you're doing a little karate kick. One more time, I release it, set it up, heel in, toe out. Internal rotation, outside, middle, inside. Let's try the other side. Get that big toe if you can, or use your strap, nobody cares. Straighten the leg, pull back to set the tension. Play with where your hips are in this. If you relax and get sloppy, you should feel it really alleviate the stretch. But if you're really, really tight, that might be what you need. If you straighten the back again, tuck that tailbone away from you, it should add to the stretch. Starting on the outside, heel in, toe out, pulling, internally rotating, up off that right hip. Ooh, let it all go. One more time. Heel in, toes out. Pull, set the tension. Internally rotate outside to the middle, to the inside. Hip off the mat and pull. Couple of more just to make it even. I'll even use a strap here just to show what a team player I am. Heel in, toe out, pull, and internal rotation. When you max it out inside, lift that hip and pull like you're doing a side kick. Last one. Straighten out the leg, set the tension, heel in, toe out. Internal rotation, outside, middle, inside, pull. That's it. The idea is there are three parts to the hamstrings, and if you don't play with the angle of your hips and the rotation of your thigh bone, you're gonna ignore one of them and you're gonna hear a pop and you're gonna wish you listened to the machine. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I got nothing else to do.
But the whole point of the machine is to relieve you of that suffering.